The Black Business Council has called for inclusive growth. We understand that this is one of the calls they've been making for quite some time. They've even lobbied government to use SOEs in terms of facilitating this inclusive growth. Right now, we understand that they are holding their annual summit where they have brought in a number of business people to come and try and persuade government with regards to resolving some of the issues they face as a business. Behind me, there are a number of stores behind me where people have come to display some of their products. So this is a great platform to market small businesses, small medium enterprises, as well as talk to government about some of those issues. But speaking of inclusive growth, there's also the issue of black economic empowerment, and if that has been successful with regards to facilitating inclusive growth. I'm joined by two guests who are BBC members who are going to talk to us about what black economic empowerment has meant for them in their businesses and what it means for South Africans, and has it been successful in terms of including black South Africans in business. But I'm going to speak to Mangqoba Zungu, who is also a BBC member, and I'm just going to ask, do you feel that the legislation around black economic empowerment has done enough to facilitate inclusive growth and to bring in, to involve black business people in business?
Thank you for the opportunity. In the triple BEE definition, there's the broad element. And unfortunately, that element hasn't been realized. The BEE has focused more on sort of a smaller group of individuals. It has been more around who sort of corporates trust and understand have been working with, and the same deals and the same opportunities keep going to those individuals, whether they're politically connected or whatever the case may be. The reality is, if you look at the economics and if you look at the studies, if it's not broad-based and if it's not inclusive, right, it challenges the growth of the country, it challenges the potential of the country, it challenges our potential to meet, the objectives of the NDP. So short answer, is broad-based BEE required? Yes, it is. Is it working? No, it's not working. Why is it not working? Because it's not broad-based. The structures are not allowing for it to be broad-based. The intentions are not for it to be broad-based, because individuals who are in the decision-making powers are still going to the same old people with the same opportunities.
Which essentially speaks to the question, why have too few people benefited from it, and what can be done to improve this legislation?
Yeah. Look, I think for me, as a country, we need to have a grand holistic strategy and have this buy-in and this understanding that if we don't grow this economy, right, we all suffer, whether you are white, black, red, or gray. If we have that understanding, and then we broaden the inclusivity, more people that are unemployed, the 8.2 million people that are unemployed, come into the market, they get employed, they contribute towards the market, they contribute towards growing the market, then our businesses grow, right? It's a simple concept. So you'd rather have 20% of something than 100% of nothing. And I think that's the mindset we need to get into.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. There you have it. That was Mangqoba Zungu speaking to us about legislation around broad-based black economic empowerment. We've also heard conversations during the panel discussions talking about how when black people are successful, they're always painted corrupt. And has BEE really been used as a guise for corruption? We've heard evidence coming from the State Capture Commission of Inquiry where certain individuals have come forward and defended their actions as though they were being sidelined or they were targeted because of their transformation agenda. But to speak to us about that is Teddy Daka, who's also a BBC member. Is this in fact true? Is BEE being used has it been abused essentially?
Any program, any policy that you put in place from a government perspective is likely to be abused. What I do not agree with is that BEE is put synonymously with corruption. I think that is wrong. And I'll illustrate this point. Does it always mean that if a black person is involved in a corrupt practice, therefore BEE is wrong? How then do you explain the corruption that was part of the construction industry that was white people? Is that BEE as well? I think as a country we need to accept that we have high levels of corruption that are being perpetrated by all racial groups, and it's simply not correct to assume simply because a thief or one thief happens to be a woman, therefore women are corrupt. That does not make sense. I've heard comments before, I think it was made by the Secretary General in the past, where he said it can't be beer at all costs, but government can't be buying water in Mpumalanga at this price. This is corruption. But again, we cannot say because preferential procurement or procurement policies are not working properly, we say that is BEE. That does not make sense. We need to fix our procurement. BEE is not the issue in this case.
Okay. And would you say that too few South Africans have benefited from this legislation that was meant to bring in black entrepreneurs into the mainstream economy? And if so, what can be done to improve it?
I think we could do more, but I also don't agree with the view that BEE has not worked. Again, if you're in a capitalist system, you are more likely to have a few going to the top. That's just a function of the capitalist system. Look at the United States of America. The few companies have gone to the top. We've got rich people now, whether it's the Bill Gates or you name them. That's what a capitalist system does. So in South Africa, if it happens to bring a black person to the top, as in Patrice Motsepe, and then we say a few people, no. That's the capitalist system that we have. There's more, of course, we could have done to make BEE more broad and bring more people, but let's also not forget, BEE is not the economic policy of the country. It's an intervention, one intervention to deal with exclusion of black people from a business perspective. And therefore, in that respect, we just have to look at the numbers of large middle-class black people that we have in this country, which is a function of some of these BEE policies. Of course, we need to do more. I think we need to do more on the SMME side. I think a lot of work needs to go and get black SMMEs to be more included into our policies. And I do hope that the current public procurement policy would do so, given that now it is finally, since 2006, agreed that we can now put set asides for SMMEs and black people.
Okay. Going forward, what can government do in order to achieve its goal of inclusive growth?
Within the context of black business, I think we have to look at the legislative environment. I do not believe that the current legislative environment produces the kind of value and value that we need to get out of it. So we still need to fix, even the bill itself has a lot of work that needs to be done to do that. But let's not forget, if we have to bring SMMEs into the system, we need to give them access to places where they can innovate, where they can pilot. It's very difficult for an SMME to go to a large SOC or a large company, privately owned, and try and sell their wares. We are not that inclusive. So both private sector and government businesses need to be more open and allow SMMEs to experiment. Let them fail. It's okay. I do recall many years ago when I was executive for empowerment at Telkom, one young black company had a problem of something went wrong with the plumbing and there was water in the building. Instead of looking at it as that this is an SMME problem, we look at it as if black people are useless, which is not the case. All startups, irrespective of color, need support, and that is why government needs to focus on SMMEs and make it more inclusive.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. There you have it. We've had two members from the Black Business Council just weighing in on some of the legislation that can assist with regards to motivating and rather promoting inclusive growth in this country, and one of them being the legislation around a broad-based black economic empowerment. For now, though, it's back to you in studio.